Welcome back everybody to the Hentai Literature Club, where here we seek to look at hentai through the lens of literary criticism. I am your host Josh, and I am the president of the Hentai Literature Club. And let's go around and introduce the people we have on the panel today. Tom, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, I'm Tom. This is my first time here. I wasn't in 1 or 0. I'm replacing Austin. And
Melinda.
Oh, right.
Damnedest thing. Tom is also in charge of Caffeinated Conquest video game side of things.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Light.
Alright, I am Chaz LaBelle. I am a fiction author that does surprisingly little writing for Caffeinated Conquest itself, unless you count storytelling chronicles of the World of Darkness for our live plays. I guess that's about me in a nutshell. Yeah, I do a lot with fiction. I love literature. When, Josh and I first started talking about doing something with literature, we were going to do, the Appendix N books. I don't quite know how it worked its way back around to porn, but here we are.
People have admitted that this is more interesting to them.
They absolutely fucking have, and you know what? I can't argue. I cannot fucking argue with them.
I'm Xavier. I read hentai. That's all you need to know. Yeah.
I'm Anae, and I don't usually read hentai.
But you're coming around to it.
But I like it now.
Yeah.
So.
One of us. One of us.
Okay, yeah, so today the tag that we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at tentacles and hentai. And yeah, there's a lot of things that come associated with tentacles and hentai. Who here would like to bring up what you usually find when you're looking at hentai and you look up the tag tentacles? And for those of you who don't know, a tag is usually a niche aspect of a hentai. It can be something from a sexual act, like blowjobs or paizuri, which are tit jobs. Or it can be something like the physical aspect of a character, like the breast size or penis size. In this case, we have tentacles. Xavier looks like he has stuff he'd like to say.
Oh, you know Dr. Hentai has a cocktail ready.
Don't do this to me.
It rhymes with grape.
Yeah, so the thing that usually comes with tentacle is rape.
I will say, not a massive amount of that in today's tags.
I did it on purpose.
I figured. I didn't think it was possible to find classy tentacle porn, but god damn it, Josh, you could almost jerk off to this with your pinky out.
If there's anything we are here, it's classy.
I guess for those of you who are tuning in who aren't very familiar with hentai, tentacles is a little self-explanatory for how it works out. Usually it's sex with a creature with tentacles and not necessarily a real creature like an octopus or a squid, but usually aliens and monsters and demons.
And I think I heard somewhere like that tradition got started. Well, it was originally the fisherman's wife, right?
Yeah, we talked about that in episode 0. That's one of the first well-known erotic images from Japan is the fisherman's wife.
But I'd also heard that that practice got started because some kind of censorship, they weren't allowed to draw penises.
Yes, to get around not being able to draw penises in Japanese media, they got around that by using things that look like penises, and they gravitated towards tentacles, because tentacles could be phallic in shape, but they weren't actual penises, so that's one of the ways they got around censorship.
Nowadays, technology has progressed to where we just need a black bar.
Yeah.
A very thin black ball, or right below the thing that I would think is a head, but I can't tell, right?
Can't always tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've already kind of gotten into it, but what were your all's impressions of the tag before we really got into it?
A lot of bondage imagery, usually rape, yeah, or rape play, I guess. It's weird because, like, as we've discussed before, hentai definitely capitalizes on the fantasy aspect of things, and when you're doing things like this, nobody's actually getting hurt, so it's okay. But I don't know if it qualifies as like getting consent later, because usually about halfway through they're kind of cool with what's happening.
Mind break.
Tune in for that episode.
Yeah, well, let's get into that. There's a lot of tags and sexual acts as well as just narrative acts that usually happen in a tentacle manga, or a tentacle hentai, I should say, because this has been around for a while. This has been around since like at least the 80s. So what are some of the things that you can usually expect from a tentacle hentai?
Tentacle.
We already got over the non-consensual rape aspect.
Multi-penetration.
Yeah, multiple penetration.
Triple.
You mentioned, Chaz, that there's a bondage aspect to it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of time usually a female protagonist will get restrained by the tentacle creature.
A lot of impregnation. That's usually the end game of the creature that has the tentacles is breeding.
Really, I thought impregnation was a very I guess narrow subsect of that genre. Then again, I don't have the PhD like you do, Doctor.
That or I'm just really lucky. Just hentai. Well, tentacles, and then she's pregnant.
Like I do agree that there's quite a bit of that in today's text. So maybe it does absolutely represent the majority. But most of the times when I've come across things of this nature, usually thanks to Melinda, it's usually just sticking tentacles up there and then shake hands and you're done.
Well, because usually there's an oh, go ahead.
Shake hands aren't. I think they're shaking tentacles, and then they're.
My bad.
Well, because usually there's a reason the tentacle creature is having sex with the woman, and I think usually the purpose of that is breeding.
Yeah.
And that almost plays into a fetish aspect of it is becoming impregnated by this otherworldly thing.
That's a particular fetish in and of itself, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, breeding is a fetish.
I think you mean it's a lifestyle.
It's strange to think about, right? That breeding is a fetish when it used to just be a part of human existence.
It was the end goal.
Wasn't that how all fetishes start?
I don't think so. No.
Well, no. Isn't the actual definition of a fetish like an area of hyper focused attention? So, I mean, theoretically, any fetish comes from human nature somewhere, don't they?
So where do furries come in?
Actually, I know that because I've watched a lot of the weird part of YouTube. Furries come in because
many places.
When we are children, we are influenced early, and we start subconsciously building the blocks of what we see.
Yes, psychosexual development. Yeah, go on.
No, shut your whore mouth.
We start subconsciously putting together the building blocks of what we're going to see as attractive when we're young. And when we're little kids and we're watching cartoons, a lot of the female characters presented to us are anthropomorphic animals.
Like the bunny from
Space
Space
Jam.
Jam.
Lola made a lot of furries. I've also heard Onyx the Fortuitous talks a lot about Gadget from fucking Rescue Rangers.
Okay. Also, Robin Hood, the fox Robin Hood. You guys don't.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
But I think we need to bring it to a more modern thing. Zootopia.
Oh, have you guys seen the thing with the tiger that people have posted some things about saying that tiger looks like he can treat me right and
No.
Getting back to the tentacles.
Getting back to something normal and Christian.
And so, other than our impressions of the tag, why do you think people find this tag interesting? What about it do you think people like?
Well, I only have one penis. So to see somebody's holes get all filled by the same person, right? Because if you want normally for your partner's holes to all be filled, you're going to need some help. Help you might not be comfortable with. Because...
But an octopus, you're comfortable with that.
Like, I don't know if I want to invite my friends from work over to ram my girl.
That goes into another tag, actually.
Mainly because we don't all have the same sizes. So the hole might be...
you don't want to shame anybody. Yeah.
Well, then you kind of just rotate and mix and match until you find the optimum combination. It's like a game.
Well, it's just like,
Yeah,
I don't
but
want to
then
go after him. He made
It's
the
not
hole too
Tetris.
big.
I think a lot of it also appeals because of the bondage imagery. It appeals to a lot of BDSM fantasies. I think there's also an aspect of, again, the rape fantasies, but I think there's also I'm trying to find a way to put this without sounding really fucking creepy, and it's hard.
Not just not creepy.
Just say it.
I think it's because the girl ends up enjoying it after a while. I think there's something exciting about being able to do whatever you want to your partner, and them, I guess, quote unquote, coming around and seeing it as really amazing, even if they didn't at first.
Coming around.
You surprise them.
Also, why do we only have girls right now?
Actually, that's a very good point. Melinda actually found a tentacled hentai where dudes get banged.
It's
Yeah,
almost
Josh.
always women, and I did find one where it was a man having sex not with a tentacle creature but with a woman who had tentacle hair, and as per usual.
But that's a monster girl tag.
Yeah, it didn't really fit into what tentacle hentai usually is, and we can always come back to looking at tentacle hentai again.
We've had plenty of source material.
When he gets a
yeah.
monster girl. That's gonna be the 5-hour long special.
100 episode live stream.
Yeah, but it does change when it's a man having sex with a tentacle creature, and usually it's a tentacled woman. It's either, like you said, monster girl, where it might be like a woman who's like a sea creature or something like that, versus a woman who's having sex with like an alien or a demon that's kind of like an amorphous blob that has tentacles, as compared to like an attractive woman who has tentacles. It's an interesting to talk about when we can compare and contrast them, how it changes.
Yeah, that makes me think of something. How much of tentacle hentai do you think appeals to the horror porn market, and do you think that appeal jumps the gender divide?
I think it does. No, go ahead, Tom.
No, it's just that also dips into another tag that we might have to cover someday.
Horror porn?
Moro.
Oh.
What's that? I'm sorry. I'm not
Udo is
fucking.
a gore.
I'm glad I'm not the one asking what that is.
Oh no, my self-esteem or my self-respect got obliterated a long
like,
time ago.
I feel
Also,
like
your
I
self-esteem.
keep-
Well, that too.
We're working on it.
We're talking about one thing at a time.
I just feel like I keep asking, oh, what is that though? I don't know.
Well, because if Melinda was here, I could like nudge him. What's gore? But
Gross.
I have to be the noob today.
There
It's
really
a criminal act.
There really is a horror aspect to it. And in some of the text I was looking at for us to read, like, they go really hard on the horror aspect of it.
Like, nobody has that many penises.
Yeah, not necessarily the sex act, but like it's depicted horrifically.
Yeah.
Like
Though I was surprised I did not see any all the way through.
no. You mean going
That
from
one's
like a
comical
mouth,
at that point.
or from like a vagina through to a mouth or something like that?
I mean,
We had a close one.
ass through the mouth.
Oh yeah. Well, sometimes these things get a little wishy-washy with human anatomy.
Oh, I can't wait for the John K. Peta special.
We'll do an artist every like 4 tags.
People are asking us to do Shindal or Shindo first, more so than John K. Peta.
Yeah, well, I don't want to kill myself.
Well, Tom, what do you think is the appeal, as a self-professed vanilla man?
I wouldn't be able to be like comprehend.
As a self-professed vanilla man, what goes through your head when you see stuff like this?
Like, what goes through my head? Okay, well, at least 2 were pretty okay in that. The 2 that we researched. Yeah, researched.
I know. I said this the first time, but it didn't survive the corrupting audio. I love the I guess the highfalutenness of this. The text. This is somebody's jerk off material. The text.
Okay, people have jerked off to.
Moby Dick before. There is a very sexy part where Queequeg and Josh, you know
Ishmael.
yeah,
Are you talking at the beginning when they're sharing a bed together?
yeah. It's very sexy. It's very nice.
I'm sure you could convince a few Fujoshi Yaoi fanatics to read Moby Dick if you showed them that chapter.
I'm sure somebody did one of those like retellings with the hentai dojin. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
Like Red Riding Hood, but she gets fucked by the wolf.
Can you find a Moby Dick hentai? Because
sure.
Moby Dick Rule 34, I want it. We completely hijacked this question from Tom. I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine.
But yeah, I'm interested. Like, as a vanilla person, like, what do you think when you look at it and see fetishes like this that people? This is an aspect of human
disgusting
sexuality.
with humanity.
Well, besides that, I can't comprehend the excitement from losing freedom.
That's fair.
I can explain that as a.
I don't. That's because I just don't trust anything that much ever.
Okay, that's a good point.
You don't see the appeal for yourself, but I do see the appeal for other people in that.
Yeah, like as
people-
as a dom, I can understand why, because your partner gets to do anything they want to you, and that's exciting.
See, I don't trust people.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't
Tentacle monsters less so.
It depends on what the tentacle monster is, because a few of the subjects we've seen are more trustworthy than people.
All right, so yeah, how did you all expect the tag to influence the text either narratively or visually?
Well, one was pretty much spot on with what I expected.
I did that one on purpose because I really wanted to give something that was not atypical, but typical of the genre.
Well, I mean, the other two subverted most of the normal conventions.
Yeah, that's why I picked those two. I thought those
Well,
were.
one of them still got into not rape, but he started getting into it once he got a little more comfortable with it.
Yeah, because he didn't ask. Just
He-
not
yeah.
asking.
He never asked for this.
Oh yeah, it didn't ask.
He's just like, oh, I don't know what to do. And so he was just a wimpy protag who had multiple penises.
What about you, Chess?
Regarding what?
How were you expecting the tag itself to impact the text either narratively or visually?
As we discussed, the two out of the three were super subversive with that, like to a wide extent. The third one in question, the one that I believe we're starting with, is I almost feel as though the guy just put like a bunch of bingo balls with genres on them, shook it up real good, and pulled some out and made a hentai out of it, because there's some weird cross-genre contamination in that one. Other than that, I don't know if we want to dive too far into the actual like analysis of it until we get into it, because I've jumped that gun before and I'm trying to be better. Goddammit.
I don't know the format of this thing.
Tom, did you have any expectations knowing that we were going to be talking about tentacles?
Expectation? No.
No, okay. What about you, Anai, as somebody who is unfamiliar with the genre?
I mean, I was expecting. I don't know. I wasn't expecting the one we're starting with, because not because of the rape or how, I guess, violent it was, but more of the tentacle monster thing. I thought it would be more like the one from Batsu. That's what I imagined the tentacle being would look like, somewhat.
Yeah, so the first story that we're going to be looking at is called Shell Shock, and it's from a collection called Dropout. And I picked this one mostly because it's very typical of what you can expect from the genre. There's monsters, there's non-consensual sex with partners, all between the monsters and women.
Shout out to the Cthulhu's though. Like that guy drew Cthulhu twice. That was a hard reference.
There was one tentacle story that I didn't give you guys to read that just straight up referenced Shadow over Innsmouth by H.P. Lovecraft.
I mean, it makes sense. Deep Ones are rapists, so it's not outside the realm of possibility.
Also, they were very pregnant.
They were very pregnant, really fast.
So, who wants to go over what this text was literally about?
Well, it was about tentacles.
Oh yeah, basically a summary of what happened.
All right, am I gonna have to step up and do this one?
I'll let you do this one.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak, Xavier.
You have the spotlight.
So this one, they actually tried really hard to give this one a traditional like narrative structure, to where there is this. I guess she's some sort of lieutenant in the military, or she's the acting police force, and she goes to this nunnery, and the nuns are being. they're elves for some reason, which I don't know what that added to the story. Again, like I said, bingo ball of fucking genres. But so she goes to this nunnery of elves and finds them being raped by these tentacle monsters that have an insanely fast gestation cycle.
That's just effective.
She resolves to go into the forest to track down the source, which I don't know how she knew. There's plot holes. Okay, it's a 16-page manga. I'm not expecting fucking
24 pages.
Then they have no fucking excuse.
She has levels in Ranger.
Oh, okay. You know what? That makes sense. So yeah, she goes into the forest to track down the source of the monsters that are attacking these women, and it is revealed that back in the day, she, a dark elf, was warring with the regular elves. She was allied with the humans for some reason. I have to try really hard not to let my D&D slip into this, because why the fuck are the drow? Yeah. Basically, Lady Drist over here is, she goes to the forest to track down the source of the monsters. And turns out back in the day, the monsters were a military experiment by the Dark Elves and their human allies to target non-civilians.
No, target civilians.
Oh, yeah, yes, target civilians.
Non-combatants.
Non-combatants, that's what I was on there. Target non-combatants with monsters to breed the monsters. I don't know to what extent that strategy was meant to serve.
Well, I mean, so if they're too busy fucking and making babies of monsters that then go fuck other things.
But they're non-combatants.
I thought it was to like grow the army.
They're demonic monsters, so I'm assuming that's what it was.
Yeah. They fight the combatants and they rape the non-combatants. At some point, you're gonna win.
All right. Well, so yeah, the monsters were this military protocol. The Dark Elves ended up losing the war. The secret of the monsters got destroyed. Well, at some point during her flashback,
wait, the Dark Elves lost? I thought they won. I thought it was
no. It specifies when she's going through the forest that her side lost the war, and they ended up sealing away the knowledge of the summoner. And if I'm wrong, I'm fucking wrong, but that's what I remember reading.
And the person that's re-releasing the monsters was the head of the project to make them.
Yeah, he ended up basically getting murked in the flashback. I guess he ended up getting inseminated himself by a monster accidentally, sort of, through the blood.
There you go.
So
there's your tentacle guy. That's what happened.
So the tentacle monsters are basically all that was holding him together. He came back for revenge because reasons.
Which can we pull up a picture of the summoner real quick? Wait,
No,
there we go. He's right
there
there.
he is. That is straight up the Major from Helsing. Just not fat. Look at that.
Yeah, he's also right there.
So anyway,
there's a lot going on here. Plot-wise.
Yeah, so she goes into the forest, finds out that the guy summoning these evil demons is infected by one, and it's her old ally, and anyway, she ends up getting tentacle raped, and then Deus Ex Machina writer, she ends up having this curse put on her that kills the monster as a failsafe for betrayal.
If the monsters become traitorous and they try to rape her, it kills the demons.
But not before she gets raped, so I feel like that's...
Well, I mean, there's still Dark Elves out, right? They're still probably gonna want it, but they don't want to. They don't want to have to breed those monsters.
But
they already have enough of the spiders.
It is affecting him while he's raping her, because he says at one point he stopped hearing the screaming of the parasite.
So it basically killed what was in him, and at that point he was basically dead.
But you know what the sequel's gonna be, though, right? She's gonna have to go around having sex with all these people who've been infected.
Can't wait for that anime.
But I did like that they actually just put a failsafe, because it's just like, I summoned this thing. Oh God, it's raping me. It's just like you gotta expect that if you're gonna summon a thing that's gonna rape people, that it might rape you first.
So wait, why didn't the Major from Helsing know about the failsafe?
Because he's not a Dark Elf.
But he was one of the higher ups in that
Yeah, he would have
contingent.
known.
She's the head of the program.
I guess, but I feel like that's not something that you keep to the absolute highest echelon. Somebody's gonna ask, hey.
Well, she's still a Dark Elf. Dark Elves are still probably not gonna trust humans entirely.
Okay.
And
Do we?
The humans might have summoned them to rape the dark elves.
See, this is bullshit. And I'm sorry, I can't. I cannot divest my tendency to call literary bullshit on bad stories from the fact that this is a porn and it's got to get to the point. We're sitting here doing so many ifs and maybes about the plot, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves.
I think the reason that's happening though is because the plot on this is very dense. Like
that's probably true, and they got to fit the sex scenes around that so they have time for maybe one every 8 pages. Did you want to repeat what you said about how the depiction of Japanese elves came to be? Because I found it pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, that the reason elves have a very particular look in Japanese media is due to their early depictions in Dungeons and Dragons that hasn't been changed in like the past 30 years, and that the reason elves look that particular way with the long pointy ears is due to that is how they were depicted in Record of Lodoss War, which is based off of a Dungeons and Dragons campaign that its recountings were published in a gaming magazine. So the Japanese depictions of elves in almost all media nowadays can be traced back to one Japanese group's Dungeons and Dragons game.
I did find it interesting, and it's just me being a fucking nerd, but we have a tabletop role-playing audience, so I imagine it's not prevalent. It's not coming out of left field when I see this. Yes, there we go. I did notice that the elves they're not like Paul Anderson's elves, you know what I mean? Where they're like fairy creatures and they live in the world of fairy. These are just people with long ears, which is where I was wondering, like, why elves? Why did the Japanese think of elves this way?
I thought it was one of those very common things of, because they're having a war over racism, and it's kind of like, oh, but if you said it with humans, you're saying humans are racist. So if you said it with elves, it's not saying that you and the people around you are racist, it's saying somebody else is racist. It's kind of like what Shakespeare used to do.
So you're saying that, like, this has, like, I guess, racial undertones, but he tried to divest himself from making a critical analysis of humanity?
Well, that's just what I got. Because in the very beginning, they say that the war is between dark elves and not dark elves.
And not dark ones.
Yeah.
Like, she specifies like, what the two sides are, but it's like bullshit, because she's got humans on her team and elves and, like, I don't know. I'm gonna stop complaining about the world building in the porno.
So why was it called the Ishtar clan?
That's actually something I was curious about, because Ishtar's a goddess of love, isn't she?
Ishtar's also Lilith in some, like, mythologies, isn't she?
Well, I mean...
And Lilith, wasn't she the first succubus, according to Christian Apocrypha?
She was the first wife, sir. If you see wives as succubi, then so be it.
Okay, no. You don't get away with that.
How dare you, Chess?
I'm talking about Christian Apocrypha, right?
Well, Lilith goes back to Jewish Apocrypha, isn't it?
Honestly, I'm not sure, but my understanding of the story is that Lilith was Adam's first wife. She refused to submit to Adam. She left the Garden of Eden and basically became the first succubus, because the Bible was written by men and women are evil. I mean, according to the men that wrote the Bible, in case I need to specify.
Yeah, she was a goddess of love, beauty, sex, desire, fertility, war, combat, justice, and political power.
That's all this is
well,
about.
I see the political power.
I see the
fertility,
and the sex,
and
I
a
see
little
the
bit
sex
of combat.
a lot.
Yeah.
One of the things that make this story interesting to me is that it talks about xenophobia, biological warfare, and having to deal with the crimes you committed during war. And that's like a lot to pack into like 24-page hentai dojin.
But see, I guess I just feel like adding elves to it muddles the message. And I love elves. Elves are great. But this story could have been so much more poignant. And again, I guess that wasn't necessarily the point. I guess maybe he just wanted to stack another tag on there. But the story could have been much more poignant if he just went with humans.
I don't know why this is, like, disturbing you so much. Like, the idea that they're elves is such.
It's not disturbing.
In the background at all.
It's not disturbing. I have no problem with the fact that they're being elves, other than as far as the structure of the story goes. It's like in writing, there's that saying, "Kill your darlings." If something is superfluous, you get rid of it, because it makes the story altogether more focused and better. I feel like
It's just they're establishing a fantasy setting.
Have you ever read Mouse?
No.
Well, that's a comic book. Well, not a comic book. A graphic novel about the Holocaust and this man's father and how his family went through the Holocaust. But everybody is drawn. All the Jewish people are drawn as mice. All of the Americans are dogs. Polish are pigs, I think.
The Nazis
are cats. And you would get the idea that you can't connect to the characters because they're not humans, but because you said it's kind of separating the fact that they're elves and humans, so you can't really connect. But I didn't say that you couldn't connect.
No. I was saying that if you're talking about what I think you're talking about, I was saying that the author was deliberately trying to soften the blow by making them elves instead of humans.
No, I think he was just making it very clear.
I think you're just making a fantasy setting because, I mean, clearly the summoner is a human.
Right.
The one responsible for the demons that attacks.
I also think you're bringing a lot of American fantasy D&D ideas to it, and that Japan doesn't have that same conception of dark elves and humans working together.
Well, no. I'm just asking, like,
why couldn't they all be humans?
Right. Yeah. Like I don't think making the characters elves adds anything to the setting because look at fucking Berserk. Anime has been establishing fantasy settings.
Yes, let's look at Berserk.
Also has rape.
But I mean, what I'm saying is anime and manga has been establishing fantasy settings for millions of years. He made a very conscious choice to make them elves, and I don't understand what it adds to the story. But what Anne says about trying to, I guess, not overtly talk about racism, I guess that makes sense. I guess I can understand that.
I just think the author liked elves.
Yeah.
Again, that's another thing. Like he was probably just trying to add another tag onto it, which goes back to the bingo ball of genres that I mentioned.
I also think the author liked Alien because...
Oh yeah, those things are H.R. Geiger as hell.
Definitely. They look exactly...
That's at least where my expertise
to be fair,
I studied art, not literature.
They're
I can
not
at least...
chest bursters, so that's a
No,
little...
that thing is straight up a fucking xenomorph.
Yeah, but see, it's not coming out of here, it's coming out of here.
No, they can't see where you're pointing.
Yeah.
I know, but I mean, just like that is straight up.
To be fair though, these are drawn to look phallic, and H.R. Geiger did the same thing with the xenomorphs.
He loved drawing penises and vaginas.
And who
As a matter of fact,
doesn't?
the original xenomorph, I think, straight up had a dick on its head.
Yeah, it did.
You straight up got a dick on your head.
We're kind of moving the conversation forward.
No.
Was there
No,
any-
I want to keep talking about the dick coming out of her.
We'll get to Fuda later.
You absolutely can if you think there's something interesting about that.
No,
I'm bored by dicks flying out of people.
No, like I said, I studied art for several years and a few times in university, so that's my area of expertise. Literature, I can kind of hit a few ballparks here and there. So I can talk about the art.
Which is actually really a much needed perspective for this, I think.
Well, was there any point in this story that stuck out to you that you thought was interesting?
Well, they had the major from Helsing.
Or anything that grabbed your attention?
The major from hell.
I really had a hard time getting over that. I was like, this is... he has a German accent. He just loves the voice.
Holy fuck! I didn't see that till right now, but I know exactly who you're talking about. Gee,
Yeah,
that is straight up the fucking Nazi dude from Helsing.
Yeah, he was his title or his character's name was the Major.
You're not fucking kidding. I just saw that.
On page 13, we got what Xavier wanted. That
Whoa! Hold on. We got to your tag.
We got what he
By the
said.
way, do we?
Page 13?
Yeah.
Do we link these stories in the description?
I do give the names of them.
Okay.
Wait, is it 13?
So people can, experience this with us.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a question. You said you picked these deliberately, right? So these aren't necessarily the most popular ones?
No, these were still pretty high up on the popularity, which is interesting, right? Because, like I said, Tentacles and hentai have been around for almost 30 years at this point. And it's gotten to the point where they're so ubiquitous and common that people now either do crazy stuff like this where they add in war crimes and biological warfare into their stories, or they completely subvert the tropes associated with tentacle hentai.
Okay, hold on. I don't wanna make it seem like Xavier was asking for rape. On that top left panel, we'll say into top, that tentacle is going all the way down to her lower rib cage.
Yeah.
That's insane. When I saw that, I thought that wouldn't. Just how?
Well, see, dark elves have a very slutty body. It's designed to take penis very deep into it.
Okay, so
You're referencing the Monster Girl encyclopedia.
Why don't you have that with you all the time?
Because we're not doing Monster Girls right now. When we get to it, I promise you I'll have both of them, or the third volume if it's out by then.
I mean, to be fair, in D&D, I mean, they have to take Labrezu penis, so that's... I'm just saying, there's lore. There's lore to back that up.
What about, to the rest of the table, were there any moments in this hentai that stuck out to you or that you thought was interesting?
I did like the idea that his heart right in the bottom right there is exposed through the mouth of the demon.
Mm-hmm.
But it's being
kind of looks like venom. You know, a parasite that's taking over somebody.
Do you think
body.
that... I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. Do you think that had, I guess, aesthetic significance?
I think it has to do more along the line with the... If you notice, his sclera is now being deep-rooted in black, which is ambiguous with a lot of corruption.
Which is also a tag.
Sclera?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
No, see, look, it's black and it's got a mouth. His heart is being devoured by darkness.
Oh, I see.
I could be pulling that out of my ass because the artist might have been like, "This just looks cool."
Which he's right.
It looks pretty cool.
Also, I think it was a narrative device to show, hey, this is literally keeping me alive. Look, my heart is right under this. But I don't know. I think there's definitely a case to be made for aesthetic significance of that particular image.
I'd also imagine they're in a cave, so the cave has to be, you know, I imagine dark because it's a cave. But it doesn't look very dark compared to him. If we're thinking in real life situations, if he looks that much darker than the surrounding area, that means that he's
very dark.
Yes.
I like the sounds she's making with her mouth.
Good. Shove.
I don't think she made the sound shove.
Oh, that's her tit. That's not a fucking...
Yeah. No, yeah.
That's not a...
That's one of those, yeah. Oh, fuck, what are they called?
Onomatopoeia?
There we go. But they have, like, a specific thing.
Titty onomatopoeia?
No, like, her tit looked like the sound bubble. That's why...
Shove. Splurt. Pool.
Did you have a moment that you wanted to point out?
No, those were my notes. This wasn't my favorite.
Cough.
Well, what do you think about that? Because I picked this one because this is more typical of what you expect from tentacle hentai.
Well, I didn't know that we had to expect rape.
Ooh.
I mean, it's kind of a hallmark of the tag a little bit.
It's what they're most proud of. It's their crowning achievement.
Like who... Okay, the other two texts notwithstanding, because those are deliberate subversions, who like, consents to fucking otherworldly monster like that?
There are plenty of tentacle dildos out
Okay,
there.
yeah, you're right.
Somebody who's just like, yeah, normal penis doesn't do it for me anymore. I need to shove like
but
4 or
which
5
came
of these
first,
bad boys
this
in.
style or the tentacle dildo?
I think this probably came first.
Yes.
Which that probably inspired the
tentacle
tentacle dildo.
dildos.
I'm actually really sad Melinda's not here because she, this is one of her tags. She likes tentacles a lot, and I feel like she could give a lot of insight on this. Then again, she might just say tentacles are rad.
I mean, it's as valid of a reason to like anything, right?
Also, I mean, tentacles aren't connected. I mean, not in the other ones, except for this one. They're not connected to a human body. So if you're not particularly fond of men, but you still like being penetrated, tentacles seems like a great option.
I love penis. I just don't like men.
Well, either tentacles or food.
I love penis, I just don't like what's attached to them.
That's fair.
So sometimes the feeling is, you know, reciprocated on the other end by some people.
what did you all think about? There's almost like a thematic element running through this story of the idea that the female protagonist and the male antagonist are both going to hell for the things they've done. How do you think that plays into the tag of the tentacles and the monsters that come out into the story?
Well, one, I thought that was interesting from just a narrative perspective because...
Well, Dark Elves are just gonna go to hell. They're shitty people.
Well, they go to spider hell.
So this is the Tentacle episode, also known as the Xavier Shade on Dark Elves episode.
He's shitting on Dark Elves.
Technically, we've avoided that tag.
I'm kind of glad.
Yeah.
Oh, not.
This could have been anal sanctuary.
No, what were you going to say, Chaz?
I thought it was interesting that they cast the protagonist as sort of an antagonist simultaneously. Like, what is that? I don't. Can you kind of elaborate on that from a literary scholar's perspective
Like
about
an anti-hero?
how it's not really an anti-hero, right? Like they present the protagonist, but then this protagonist has done something awful to the point where the reader may or may not be able to identify with them any longer.
Well, it's
Now-
a redemption story, is it not?
Yeah, it is. But again, that's what I'm like.
Even by the end, though, she says, "I'll see you in hell."
Well, wasn't the one of the main focuses was that they're going to hell, but they're actually creating the hell around them.
Yeah. Do you want to elaborate on what you think about that?
Well, I thought it was what's the word am I looking for? It's poetic irony.
Oh, you mean poetic justice?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just because the
Yeah, she
world
says,
in
"I'll."
general.
Yeah,
is
she
hell.
says, "I'll meet you there someday." Yeah, she talks about the fact that they're creating hell on Earth due to the war crimes they've committed by creating these biological weapons that rape people and reproduce and then kill.
And to be fair, pretty shitty.
Yeah. What do you think that adds to the hentai, that they added this whole
It's-
very dark... Like, tentacle hentai can be pretty dark on its own, but the reason the tentacle monsters exist in this story is they're used as a biological weapon.
You know, you talk about how cool it would be if we could interview like the creators of this shit. I would love to talk to this guy. You know, usually I'm like, okay, I don't know how deep down the rabbit hole I want to get. I would love to know what the creative process for this was, because I am just...
Well, I actually survived multiple chemical weapon attacks, and I just wanted to make fat material for other people using my experiences.
Oh, that would be also ironic if this guy who drew this was old enough to be a survivor of Hiroshima or Nagasaki.
Yo, that'd be old as shit.
Yeah.
I can't remember who wrote it, but there's an author that talks about that there is like an unerasable stain on Japanese media caused by the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that's something that pervades Japanese media up until this point.
What do you mean by an like a unerasable stain? Do you think it's something that has affected their mindset?
Yeah, that it's something that's so big that's only happened in that part of the world. It's only happened to them. That it's something that pops up in media over and over, because it's something like, as a cultural conscious, they can't forget it, and that it influences media in all spectrums that they produce.
Could you compare it to 9/11? I mean,
mean,
no.
That was worse.
No.
We're talking about 2 cities being leveled by an atomic bomb.
yeah, but still,
I think no, yeah. See, because that was the worst thing to happen to us for a very long time.
And people would agree, though, that changed American culture
Yeah.
a lot.
Significantly. Even I'm not saying that 9/11, like I don't know.
We're not equating world tragedies
But
to each
yeah,
other.
relatively to what they had experienced at the time, like we didn't have a Nagasaki, Hiroshima on our end. We delivered that, but we don't know what it's like to receive that.
Well, I mean, Pearl Harbor, kind of.
No, like yeah, a lot of people died and it was super shitty, but
Well, you're right. That was an attack on a military base. We bombed civilians.
yeah, super fucked up.
Some
9/11.
people would argue that you can make that direct correlation to this hentai that we're looking at, and that it's a production of Japanese media that talks about the horrors and the aftermath that you have to deal with awful things that we do.
With war crimes.
Yeah, with war crimes.
That's really interesting.
But you know what? We won.
America! we don't have no responsibility.
You're only a war criminal if you lose. Take that, Nazi Germany.
Can we wave an American flag on right this part?
No, that is a super fucked up mentality.
We're joking to me.
Yeah, I joke about that. There's people that legitimately believe that, and they're in our military. Be warned, other countries. I can't do anything to stop them.
Okay, thanks. I'm sorry, you can't stop them. You specifically.
Okay.
Did anybody else have anything that you thought was interesting or that you want to talk about in this hentai? Before we move on to the next one?
No?
Nope.
No. Typical slitty subhumans. Okay, subhuman sounds wrong. Demi-humans.
Alright.
There you go. There's the TSR terminology coming out.
Okay, I don't want to say subhuman.
Just say bye to the major.
Yeah, the next story we're going to be looking at is Tentacle Training by Batsu.
Yay!
I gotta say, this one was my favorite.
So, alright, if it was your favorite, then would you be so kind as to recap what it was about for us?
Now you get to be the weirdo!
What happened in this story?
Okay, so this knight gets thrown in a cell, and she encounters a monster that is there to rape her, but this monster has never raped a human before, and he doesn't really know how to do it. So she's kind of like, well, I can't kill you because you're kind of pitiful, so I guess I'll teach you how, and then maybe I can do something about it. So she teaches him how, by sex, and then he levels up, and he's really liking it, and he's trying really hard. He is trying his hardest. And then she's kind of enjoying it, but she doesn't really, she tries not to show it, but she's kind of enjoying it. And then they stop, and she hits him in the head, and I thought that was super cute, because it was very, I don't know, it was so innocent. Right after having sex, just a little bump on the head, like, hey, I told you to stop. And then one of the guards comes in, she kills him, and decides, you, monster, are now part of my party.
Is that what happened? I couldn't get the last 2 pages to load.
Yes.
So I'm actually, like, the last two, the way this actually ended is completely foreign to me.
Just
There you go.
Spoiler warning.
Yeah, it ends with her being like, yeah, like, hey, you gotta stop when I tell you to stop, kind of thing.
And then they become in my mind, they become best friends.
Well, a little more than friends.
fuck buddies.
French with benefits.
I don't think she sees him as like a potential mate, but it's just like, yeah, you can fuck me.
That's okay.
Hey, those long journeys across the open wilderness get lonely.
I mean, yeah.
So you all already pointed out how this was a subversion of the genre. Would anybody like to expand on that? What about this is subversive to what you expect from the average tentacle hentai?
Well, because, like, I guess you expect the monster to be more forceful, and he was towards the end, but
He was just trying to do a good job.
yeah, that's the thing. Like, honestly, this was kind of a metaphor to me for like the male mindset of losing one's virginity.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? What the fuck did you think I was talking
Oh,
about?
no, we all clearly had a different idea of what it was for, but I'm glad you clarified that.
Well, because you think about it, like the protagonist, the tentacle monster. Is the tentacle monster the protagonist? I guess more so than the knight, right?
Well,
'Cause
they
the
both
tentacle monster has an arc.
They're both.
There are character arcs in this
A
smut.
protagonist is usually it's any character that changes by the end of the story.
Is this the only one we've had where the character has an arc?
The other, well, the titty ones definitely didn't have an arc. I don't know if you would necessarily consider that dark elf chick having an arc.
I don't.
She
We
resolved.
didn't see it.
Yeah, it happened off screen.
Yeah.
I guess there's technically a very small arc in the next one.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So the tentacle monster, he starts out timid. He starts out not knowing what to do, and then he has a woman who show him how. He levels up. I think that at that exact moment is the point where it is the metaphor for losing virginity. After that, the monster becomes more aggressive, more assertive, and that sort of mirrors, like, I guess, young adolescent men who don't know when they're taking it too far, or they do really want to do a good job, but they don't fully understand what's going on yet. They don't understand the dynamics of sex. And then towards the end of the story, he's got a more well-rounded knowledge of it. I think he knows, like you said, bonked him on the head, stop when I tell you to stop, that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I don't think she was terribly experienced before this.
She knows what tentacle monsters are supposed to
Yeah.
do. It kind of almost implies she's encountered this kind of thing before.
And he's like, oh, you're going to rape me. And he didn't know how.
So
does that mean that she knew how she should have been raped?
to me, it seemed like she knew she had encountered tentacle monsters before. She knew kind of how it went. She was prepared for it.
She has a meta knowledge of what's supposed to happen in the story, and that's something that kind of happens.
I have a theoretical knowledge of how this should go.
Yeah, it's something that happens because tentacle hentai's been around so long that it's almost like Deadpool and stories like that where the characters get meta with what's happening.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And I guess this isn't directly related to the tag, but how come usually when the characters are portrayed as in some kind of fantasy world, not necessarily in something like what was that one anime started with a K that Adam used to watch a lot of, Kazuma Des?
Oh, Konosuba?
Konosuba. I'm not talking about stuff like that. I'm not talking about like isekai. But when they have like a one-off or like when they have a sequence that's in like a fantasy world, it's always like an homage to Dragon Warrior. It's always like 16-bit or 8-bit. It's always like them in the dungeon. And when you see, when the tentacle monster levels up, it's a very digitized script. It's a very, like you can tell like it's a video game, basically. And I'm wondering if there's anything cultural about that. I'm wondering if there's a specific reason for that. I've noticed that and I've never known why.
You want to say something about that, Tom?
If I remember correctly, it's because Dragon Quest over in Japan is a huge thing. So much so that they're not allowed to release new ones on certain days because it starts down like parts of the country.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I also think it's because like a lot of media in Japan is created by committee, and they want to do what they know is going to be successful.
So you think it's a way to appeal to the audience?
Well,
Oh,
that
definitely.
and they know this is probably the level up aspect is probably an homage to that kind of thing, but that like in a lot of modern day anime and Japanese media and manga, you see that video game influence on it just because it's so pervasive, and the people creating some of these series by committee are doing it because they know it's going to be successful. It's like when isekai became popular in Japan.
Isekai, there we go.
It became so popular that they had to stop accepting submissions for like amateur story competitions. They were like, if you're going to do an isekai with a male protagonist in a fantasy world...
Isekai is, correct me if I'm wrong, that's when the protagonists are transported to another world?
Yes.
For those of our viewers that don't speak Weebanese?
Yeah, they got to the point where so many amateur publications where they would publish new people's stories or manga series, they had to be like, if it's an isekai in a fantasy world with a male protagonist, don't submit it, we have too many of them. And it's something that happens in the West too, but I think we notice it in
Wizard of
anime a
Oz.
lot more.
Well, that is exactly what happened when I tried submitting Ashes of Arcadia to traditional publishers. This was right after Twilight, the last movie had just come out. Nobody fucking wanted vampire stories. But goddamn, that blows me away that Dragon Quest is that popular there. Have you ever played the first Dragon Warrior on the NES? That shit blows. It's really go here, grind 3 levels. Then go here, grind 3 levels. Then go here, grind 3 levels. You win.
Yeah, but Japan loves the grind.
You know what? That probably does speak to their cultural ethos in some way, too.
All their games are grindy. Their life is grindy. Right? You just go to school all the time, and you go to work, and then if you stop, you're poor.
This is why Yakuza is a great franchise.
Did you have something you wanted to say about the story?
On
Or you
page
kill yourself.
10,
Xavier is saying, or you kill yourself, not telling you how to kill yourself.
On page 10?
So on page 10, there's in like an accidental forceness, which I had pointed out, but I didn't know was like a traditional tentacle thing. So it kind of has, I don't know, it kind of has traditional tentacle, but not really, right? Also, those tentacles look weird. They creep me out.
I think that's like the squid things with the, you know, they have those weird 9th and 10th arms.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of, I was going to say, on these two particular pages, I think we kind of see the appeal, at least from a woman's, I'm not trying to speak for all women or anything, but I know that there's like a large contingent of women who enjoy tentacle porn, and you kind of see that there's different textures and body parts with tentacles that get played with. Like, she points out that one of the tentacles is ribbed and stuff like that.
Which, if anybody has been to Bad Dragon, you know what they look like. And we start seeing that thing as a living sex toy.
Ooh, can we get sponsored by Bad Dragon?
No.
If you want to test their products, go ahead.
I was wondering, like, can we actually upload this podcast to Pornhub? I think that'd be hilarious as hell. Because you know how in every video we have the, I guess the call out of our social media sites, just fucking
Pornhub.
fucking Twitch, my Twitter, Tom's Twitter, SoundCloud, Pornhub, what?
Yo, Pornhub.
What did they finally make Adam do?
Whoever's at
Oh no,
Pornhub,
Adam.
or the people running Pornhub are some pretty great people. Like not in the you know what I like kind of way, but in like these are genuinely good people that they just so happen to be in the porn industry.
They know
that sounds weird. They are in the porn industry, just not in the porn.
I think
production.
we actually have a viewer that works in the adult entertainment industry.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. If I could, I would. Believe me, my hours suck. But I guess that's the price I pay.
This is already way further into the adult entertainment industry than I honestly ever found myself going. So I'm just kind of riding the wave at this point.
Did anybody else have a moment in the text you wanted to point towards or discuss?
No.
You're looking at me like I
No,
feel
no,
like
I'm just kind of looking at everybody.
Speak up, pervert!
You said text, but can I point out that her outfit is odd for the genre, at least?
Well, sure.
What do you mean?
Well, scroll up when she's not getting reeled. How that's an oddly modern aesthetic she has under her night.
Yeah, those are straight up booty shorts.
Yeah. It is all. It's a tad confusing.
She's wearing thigh highs and short shorts and like a t-shirt.
It's very aesthetic though.
I mean, the tight shirt I can kind of imagine, but yeah, the booty shorts with the thigh highs is a little off.
So I was going to ask about if you all thought there were any inner character conflicts, but Chaz, you already kind of got into that. How do you think that whole idea of like a male sexual development plays in with the tag in this story?
Well,
or anybody else can answer that question as well.
I mean, like I said, I saw it mostly as a metaphor for male virginity. Because one thing is, I don't know if it's a major talking point nowadays, but I know for like a couple years back it was just the amount of pressure that's put on women to have sex. And like I understand that is absolutely a thing, that is absolutely valid. However, there is a shitload of pressure that is put on guys to have sex too. And people don't usually talk about this because they think that all guys are gung-ho, we're all out, you know, to get the vagoo, and, you know, we're all 10-4 for it. This was something that was scary as shit to me when I was young, because there's something about our society
So
that...
what if it doesn't fit in her belly button?
No, it's because we attribute so much to our qualities as people to our sexual prowess. I had no idea what to do. I had no idea how to please a woman. I honestly had no idea if I was big enough on the scale of grand things, you know. So the whole thing, there's this immense trepidation, and when you're at like high school age or God forbid college age, there is this constant stigmata. Oh, you're a fucking loser. Oh, you're this, you're that. You can't get women to like you. It starts affecting your self-esteem. You start thinking, you know, there's these hideous fucking dudes out there that are married. What's fucking wrong with me? And I don't know, in a weird way, I identified with the tentacle monster because I remember, and it got to a point where I was literally, when I eventually lost my virginity, I was at a point where I kind of just made a deal with myself, and I was like, I'm just going to take the first thing that comes along. Not a healthy way to go. Absolutely, that was a mistake, and that got me stuck in a year-long relationship that I regret to this day. So, yeah.
Respect yourselves.
Old me has not enlightened me, and I've learned better since. But, I mean, I think society doesn't realize just how much pressure gets put on guys to have sex.
I think guys get way more pressure than women. Like, I think I definitely got more like, oh, you're a girl and, you know, you can't have sex because you're a girl. That's what I experienced.
Well, the guys just gonna have to end up fucking each other then.
Yeah.
I had a classmate in high school.
They just fuck with each other until they're good enough, and the first time with the woman is just great.
That's
right?
what I never understood. Like, why is it
How do
that
you
women
explain
can't have sex but guys can't? Like,
Who
what's
are they
happening?
gonna have experience with?
Yeah, Josh, I don't mean to cut you off, but
Sorry.
the little point you just said reminded me of something. This is how bad it is. I went to high school once with this one kid, and the pressure to have sex is so major. This guy came to school one day and was bragging about getting fisted in the ass by a girl. Like, I swear to God, he came and, you know what?
I hope he did. He wasn't in that much trouble.
I mean, I absolutely try to be as sex positive as I can. If getting fisted in the ass is your thing, no shame, go for it, you do you. But what I'm saying is, this guy came to school, like fucking swaggering, like he was hot shit.
I got fisted.
Yeah, I got fisted in the ass by a girl last night. I'm like, buddy.
That's
You
what
said
he did.
swaggering. Did you mean swaying?
No, this dude came in with fucking swagger.
The Jack Sparrow swagger.
I'm sorry, please say what you were going to say.
Oh no, I had a classmate in high school who pointed out that the statistics were that more young men had sex than young women. Then she was like, well, who are all these young guys having sex with each other? It's like, well, either that, or the few women who are having sex have multiple partners, right?
See, that's another thing. Like, in the United States, the population dynamic is such that there's a lot of competition for women. So there might be a handful of women that are, you know, willing to go this far. However, they're only selecting a couple of guys, and I hate saying that. That makes me sound like super fucking incel, and I hate that. No, I'm not kidding.
No.
I hate that fucking ideology. They can go fuck themselves. But I'm just saying, like, in Australia, it's completely reversed. I think the population is 6 women to 1 guys. So a lot of the... And I'm probably sure one of our...
Huge.
Yeah, I'm sure...
All those damn kangaroos.
It was the Great Emo Wars.
Ah.
They haven't recovered.
Wiped out the male population.
But again, like, odds are kind of stacked against guys when it comes to that taking that first leap. And I saw a lot of my journey in this fucking one-eyed tentacle monster. It's fucking weird. But yeah, you start out, I saw the trepidation, not knowing what to do, being outwardly fucking terrified, and you find a woman that's looking to guide you. You get more comfortable with yourself, but to a certain extent you overcompensate. And that's exactly what he was doing.
So, I knew this guy in high school that...
I love how there's
No,
so much of this in the story.
He had sex at 13 because he was just like, I'm going to get a head start on everybody, and it fucked him up.
Really?
He was emotionally dead all the time, and he had like some kind of autism because he just couldn't talk to anybody normally.
That's just high school.
No, like this guy was seriously fucked up, and then it's just like, oh yeah, this guy had like sex at 13. So I'm like, I don't know what kind of sexual experience he had that
What
killed
kind
it.
of sexual experience can you have at 13? Like, it can't be good.
Actually, I heard, I don't know if this is still current, but back around 2009, I do believe that the median age for losing one's virginity in the United States was 14. That is not actually super far off base. And it's actually, nowadays it might be as low as 12, which is
Oh,
fucking,
that's insane.
that's scary.
These damn kids these days having all the sex.
I think if we're learning anything from this,
We need to stop putting hormones in our meat.
it's that you can wait if you want to wait, and just find somebody that you want to do it with. And if you don't want to wait, you don't have to wait. But you know what?
You should not have to have the pressure to have all that sexual.
It is
What
better
are
to be
you-
a virgin than to be stuck for a year with that bitch Vivian.
Whether you are woman, man, tentacle monster, or anything
In
inside,
between.
outside, or in between.
However, let us also, because I also do want to be very sex positive. If you want to, and you are with a partner that you trust, and you are safe and responsible with it, go ahead. But do not rush it, and do not settle for anything less.
Go at your own pace, people. You'll go to hell. Eventually, it doesn't matter.
As we saw in the first one.
All right, we're gonna
Hopefully
move
you're
on
not
to the last story, and this is the longest one we have, and it's
All
called
right.
A Tentacled Romance.
All right.
Now,
No,
this
man.
one,
This
this
one
one
was-
I did notice. Was there a reason you chose to have us look at 3 chapters at once?
Mostly because it was so short and it has a pretty complete story arc in it.
Right. Okay.
I mean, a lot of the ones that have like a long story arc, they'll be 200 pages. This one was 50.
Gotcha.
So yeah, who wants to recap this one?
This one was just slice of life. Like this woman who. Okay, so
You volunteered yourself.
there's a little bit of an issue for those that want to look past the titties, and that is, I feel like, at some point,
Speaking to the mic.
she was taking advantage of this thing.
Well, okay. See, I actually saw things the other way. This almost wasn't porn. You know what I mean? There was definitely nudity. There was definitely sexual acts, but it was
It's called A Tentacled Romance.
right. Like it's almost the
You would have-
fixation was not on this compared to every other text we've looked at for the show so far. The sex almost seemed to be a side accidental thing.
I think this is a perfect example of when I said, the tentacle isn't connected to a man. You don't like how men treat you and stuff, and
She don't need no man.
she doesn't. She has
She
that
has
tentacle.
a tentacle. But yeah, but see, like going forward, she'd be like, we could do this, and he's just like, okay, I'm just trying to help you out, and she's just like, I'm actually getting sexual pleasure from this. Like low key,
Like she basically, she has babies with him.
she has babies. Where she was just like, I just want to be happy with you, and she's just like, keep fucking me.
Buffalo Bill? You'd fuck me.
Yeah, basically what literally happens in this story is this woman is living alone and a small tentacle monster crashes through her roof one day. Because it turns out he lives like in between the house boards.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cute.
Yeah, he looks the tentacle monster isn't given a gender. And
The thing has a penis on its
Well,
back.
yeah,
It's referred to as both, but more often as he,
Yeah.
as I've noticed.
Was it referred? I don't remember him
Did
being
you guys,
referred to
did
as
you
her.
guys see the xenomorph Q&As?
yeah,
They actually asked that, and he said, I don't know.
yeah.
He's like,
he has a penis like thing on the back of it, but then he also
has
lays eggs.
So
But
it's a platypus.
Oh no! Don't do that.
There's no platypus.
the more often it's referred to through the pronoun of he.
Okay.
Yeah, and they basically start a life together, and they slowly develop a relationship to the point where by the end of it they're having children together.
Which, I mean, she's fine with. I don't know what that would turn into down the line, right? Like, what do you...
Well, she's more of an incubator at best. At the end, she's not contributing any DNA to it. It's all basically just asexual reproduction.
Now here's the part that really stuck out to me, and it's most salient at the beginning of the third part, but it's in the second part a little bit too. She keeps reiterating that the relationship she has with this creature isn't really that different or that abnormal. And I guess that kind of plays into what you were talking about. Oh, if you don't like men, you can still get the penetration. What do you think is the significance of that? What is the author trying to say when he's like, yeah, this relationship with this fucking strange creature of dubious origin is the same?
That's really all men are.
It's easy.
Strange creatures of dubious origin that come in and impregnate you.
It's just that men are replaceable.
Oh, you're right.
Well, I'd like to look at this first page right here because the first page has a disclaimer. And
Yeah,
it says there is absolutely no rape or mind break in this story, not even as some kind of plot twist. It all began when one woman and one tentacle creature met, leading to their ordinary life together. What were you about to say about that?
That stuck out to me too. Like this this manga goes out of its way
To be vanilla.
kind of, yeah. Like this is
There's some
Tom's
very
tentacle porn.
Don't say it like that.
Well, there's some non-vanilla sex acts that happen.
Yeah, like the sex acts themselves, but as far as the tone of the story.
Also, when she goes out wearing him like around her with the coat over, that is something that actually happens in a lot of BDSM relationships. There's certain ties that you can do if you have like the shibari ropes, where you can wear it underneath your clothing.
It's also just for exhibitionists.
Well, yeah, but it helps stimulate like the breast area and the groin. So you get them going. So by the time they come home, well, they're ready to go.
I do honestly think that the main heroine character is an exhibitionist.
Yeah, because she's fine with all these sex acts that, like, on the bus, right?
On the bus.
Impregnation.
That was.
Also, shout out to all the tags we go through.
When she's in the bus and the thing goes inside of her, it reminded me of Benoit balls. Do you guys know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you're talking
Because
about.
like it goes inside of her, and that's basically the thing. You know, you can carry those things wherever you are.
Well, you're gonna have to
Okay.
explain to the rest
Oh,
of
the
them.
Benoit balls are just 2 balls that you stick in your vagina and you carry around for Kegel purposes and for sexual purposes.
It does also have a practical use, like you
Yeah,
can keep
Kegels.
some. No, but like you can keep things in them.
You can actually. You can put things in there that have like a little string with a little bag, and your vagina is strong enough to carry up. I think you can like lift a bowling ball.
What?
It's have you guys never seen?
I mean, I've seen it, but I've only seen like those muscle women do it.
Oh no!
Which
Like
makes it just seem like, yeah, my penis is just gonna get ripped off.
you just have
It
to
ripped
build
off
up
and
to
spat
it.
back at you.
Clean yourself up.
It's really something you just have to work up to. It's not.
So how much cocaine can you fit in your body?
I've never.
Okay,
tried
you
it.
call this a practical purpose? Like now I'm starting to worry.
Well, I mean, you gotta get to the airport security somehow, and
they
customs.
They won't check a bagoo.
It's a natural
That
pocket.
deep.
Okay.
Going back to the text, why do you think the author went out of their way to put this disclaimer at the beginning?
I think, well, it's for the people that were looking for it, right? Like, there's no mindbreaker rape. Move on. Okay, some people might be discouraged by that. Or somebody who's just like, why is this vanilla? Why did this come up? It's got tentacle in it. And it's like, no, there's really no rape. Oh, okay.
What were the tags on this one, Josh?
Hand holding.
I can't recall exactly right now, but
I can look it up.
Unbirthing. Rebirthing. Bakunyu.
Oh, what is it called when
MILF.
when the eggs are being stuck up?
Oh, I know the name for that dildo is the ovipositor, right?
Okay.
I remember because that was like a moderate meme for a little while.
I was just unbirthing. You just shove something in there.
Um,
Or we shove a living thing in there. Not
So,
dead
so
things.
there's big breast, big ass, exhibitionism, masturbation, monsters, tentacles. That's just the first one I opened.
Wow, you found that like super fast. If any of our viewers can't find this shit, they have no excuse.
what do you think it does, though, that this is a tentacle story that doesn't have what you're expecting of it?
Well, again, that goes back to subverting the genre tropes and the fact that this has been around for 30 years. So I didn't actually read the tentacle Q&As because I have shit to do. But like, I'm wondering, like, what was, again, I would love to know what the creative process was for this.
Well, that's
was
what the Q&As were for. I'm sorry your 15 seconds were so precious.
Well, no, seriously, like, was this guy told, hey, right? No, actually, you know what? I did read the first one. And
He says why he wrote the story at the end.
yeah, he said he submitted it and there was interest in it, so it turned into a...
I think he was just like, man, I like Tentacle, but I don't like the bad rep it has. I'm going to give these people a nice Tentacle story.
Do we know if this was written by a male or a female? Because I think that might be interesting perspective.
We can tell from the name, maybe. Unless it's a name like...
Was it Xenomorph?
No,
Was
Batsu, I think the artist's name was Batsu.
Nailed it.
I'll start with a Tentacle Life short story I commissioned to a net magazine. Just a few pics and some text, and I was like, oh, I want to see some symbiotic lewdness with a tentacle like that. I'm going to draw it. And I felt that I would want these relationships to be empathic so that other people would feel that kind of familiar mood. What kind of familiar mood do you think they're talking about?
I guess like a sort of gentle homeliness that you get from like the later chapters. Because like they kind of just stumble into a relationship, right? And then she gets a roommate who's also a sex toy.
So like the best of both worlds.
Well, I mean, he doesn't pay rent.
Oh, true.
Oh yeah, but he pays with his body. So if you want to look at it like that,
Really, she's just hiring a prostitute. A live-in prostitute. A bang maid.
yeah, that's the end game of marriage, right? That's what you want out of the relationship.
Can I point out something that I found intriguing with the art?
What?
If you start at the beginning, and how actually we get a timeline of what the events and how far the whole story goes. At the end, you actually notice that her hair is actually grown longer. You don't see that very often.
That's interesting.
Tom, I would actually request that you comment on the art as much as possible, because like I said before, I think that's a...
No, yeah, you're absolutely right.
that is a piece of
Oh my
expertise
god, it's Camilla.
that we don't have.
Well, I mean, I could comment on the general art style, which was a use of a lot of soft lines, which I guess lends to the idea of it being a very slice of life idea. Very, not mind break.
No.
And like if it's a pleasing thing to look at, it's a
Softcore porn.
No, it's definitely not soft.
That's some hardcore right there.
Outside of simply wanting something different due to there being so many similar tentacle hentai stories, why do you think this one goes for like that soft, homely kind of feeling with a tentacle monster?
I
Because you
guess
can have
it's
that kind
'cause-
of story without one.
I mean, yeah, but in hentai, in hentai as a whole, you don't often get this mood.
That's true. I think that's exactly why. I think that they wanted the tentacle monster, but they wanted the more, I guess, vanilla relationship. If that makes sense. Like I guess they wanted to have their cake and eat it too. And
Because there's a lot of unusual sex acts that happen that you couldn't have with a normal human partner.
that's true.
Like the egg stuff, the birthing and unbirthing.
Going back to the furries.
When do we hit vor?
Speaking about furries, on page 15.
What about it?
Okay. On the very, very first. Okay. Is that?
I forgot
what
about
are
that.
you watching?
She's
Oh,
watching
yeah!
bestiality.
That's straight up bestiality porn.
That's also
They're
drawn-
watching it together. Like, really, the family that watches porn together stays together.
It's true.
What the fuck were you raised with?
Well, I'm obviously not very close to my family now, am I?
Oh no.
What do you think about how different they got right there with that panel?
Oh, well, that's one of those. That's one of those
Gags.
Japanese tropes where it's like to emphasize like a certain expression, usually shock.
You
That's
give
what
them
they
a-
do. They
you
go
give them
into
a JoJo
high
face.
detail, JoJo face. Now, with the art, you'll actually notice there's a lot of detail in the the main heroine. That's about it. The rest, like a lot of the backgrounds, are highly simplistic. Mostly because I assume the artist was spending a lot of time getting. Look at all those creases on her shirt.
She even has creases on her underwear.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of like just part of the art style of manga that is meant to be drawn quickly? I don't know that a lot of manga spends a lot of time on the backgrounds.
I mean,
It depends.
Yeah, if you're doing porn,
Go,
I-
bring it back to Berserk. Go look at any background in Berserk.
I can do that right now.
The one from last time with the biggest boobs, I think had a pretty detailed background.
well, because most of the page was taken up by boob.
Have to get all the detail.
Just like, all right, I'm done with. I drew a big W on the page. What do I do now?
How do you all think the sex acts played into the story? Because there's a lot of stuff that you can't have with like two human partners in this.
I mean, yeah, you obviously can't have your human partner inside of you.
Well,
Inside of you,
fully
looking pregnant,
inside.
just going to work.
I'm sure we can find John KP.
You know,
Look, this is actually a page from I think the Golden Age, and the backgrounds here aren't terribly detailed. You have like the dark.
You're gonna want to be looking for some of the other nutty shit
you're
in the
pregnant,
background.
right?
All right,
Also,
I'll take your
does
word
she
for it.
not see this friend again later?
That's what I was thinking.
Just like your baby's gone. It's like, well, I got these things.
Like, what if she sees her the very next day? It's like, I thought you were 9 months pregnant.
And also, with this,
Well,
we
you
get,
just convince her that she was high.
with this, we get some backstory, right, on why she's living by herself. It's like, oh yeah, that last guy, he sucked.
Okay, so pointing that out, she clearly had a bad relationship before, and now she is seeking out, because she's definitely seeking out this with the relationship with the monster.
I mean, yeah,
like
'cause
it
she
pops up.
was masturbating at the beginning.
Yeah, but once the monster is there, she goes, you know, this is kind of a way better life that I'm having. There's no baggage of that person's life, and no no external influences. It's just them living together in an apartment. That thing doesn't even leave the house unless it's with her.
Well, because it's afraid of what'll happen to it.
Yeah, but that's my point. Like, it's the easiest way to have a relationship. You just go home and it's right there, and it does all the things you want it to do.
I would love to be a stay-at-home husband. That's great. All I have to do is stay home, watch TV, clean the house, make food, and then have sex.
Well, like I
If
really
anybody's
want
looking for Xavier's application for stay-at-home husband, you can
Please make sure you can support my lifestyle, though.
a yearly trip to Gen Con with at least $1,000 of spending money.
You can send your applications via Twitter or YouTube. I'll look at them. I will sort through those.
Just feel like, no, you don't want this one.
Well, what kind of statement do you think the text is saying that she's able to have a positive relationship with something that isn't human?
What?
I gotta point out
You
that
don't need no man. Just
This-
get a really good sex toy.
like this isn't a relationship. I would equate that thing to more of a closely to a pet.
That she fucks.
Yes.
Okay, well.
Yeah, let's not. I don't like that idea.
Well, that's what it is. That's not a real relationship.
But they
It
talk
lives in
to
a
each other.
terrarium.
Yeah.
Okay, but like, my pets don't help me pack my bag.
Because they're not capable of it.
If you had a monkey,
A monkey could.
Oh no.
you might get AIDS, though.
Let's change the subject, please.
Oh, I could have kept going.
Well, do you think the author is making a statement though? Because it is implied that they have a human kind of relationship with each other.
With their sex toy.
I mean, what's missing for it to be a human relationship? I mean, other than him being a
So,
human.
I mean, like a modern relationship, both people need to be able to provide because the economy sucks.
Especially in Japan.
Yeah. But I mean, if she's fine living by herself in a small apartment with very minimal accommodations, and then all she wants is just like sex and food and going to work and repeat, that's fine.
Okay, so speaking about providing in general, I don't think that monster really takes up a lot of resources. It likes tofu from time to time, but mainly it just wants things that naturally come out of her for free.
For pee.
Her
Oh
pee.
yeah, fucking put that tag up there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it feeds off of female body fluids because it needs the hormones.
Wasn't it any bodily fluids?
It can eat any bodily fluid
But
as long as it has
the
female
females
hormones.
secrete the most.
Also, does tofu have?
Tofu has estrogen in it, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, it does. It does.
It's, I mean, yeah, but there's a Q&A part. It's like, how can you eat tofu?
But they don't name estrogen. Why wouldn't they name that?
What do you mean?
Because tofu does have estrogen, and it just kind of says, "Oh, tofu kind of has something similar."
Yeah, well, he kind of says that, right? He says that tofu has something similar to the female hormone.
Which is estrogen.
Well, do you think that kind of goes into the whole idea of how like relationships work in Japan? Because
Men are just...
no, not that necessarily, but like the way people have relationships with things like with other humans in
with
general.
dolls.
Well, no, with things like maid cafes, cuddle cafes, host clubs, and hostess clubs.
I mean, that's like a culturally Japanese thing too, isn't it? Because we don't have that stateside.
We have clothes.
The club.
It just doesn't get as intimate.
Yeah, I think it's because we're raised like normal people. And so, okay, it's normal to us, right, to be out and about and talking to people and having all these various things and not being so restricted in, you know, your choice of like friends or lifestyle. Whereas in Japan, they're a little tighter, a little stricter on everything. So, like, I got no backstory for this girl. She might have just like met the dude at a bar that she went to one time.
I think it said
work.
that they meet at university, isn't it?
Oh. Which is, again, going back to the whole thing that they don't get any free time.
What kind of statement do you think the text is making about relationships then?
As far as Japanese ones, women don't need no man.
Which is really bad for their society as of right now.
Yeah.
Again, I think
Okay, you might not need the man, clearly, but you need a breed. Yeah?
I think that panel I was talking about that's in the beginning of every episode where she insists that this relationship really isn't that different. I think that's salient somehow, but I can't put my finger on what they're trying to say with that.
Isn't that just her trying to convince herself? She's got to know better, right?
There's no mind break. There's no rape.
That's
I mean,
not my
She is
break.
absolutely cool with this.
That's not mind break. That would not be mind break. Would be her getting reamed over and over, saying no, yes.
Okay.
Basically, it starts with tears and ends with heart pupils.
If I were to take a stab at it, though, it's almost like saying that it doesn't matter who you're in a relationship as long as the relationship is what you want out of it. To me, that seems to be the kind of statement that the text is making.
Yeah, if she's happy with her situation, though.
Doesn't
There's no
matter.
reason to change it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So, looking at all three texts at this point, what kind of similarities did you see between the three of them,
Tentacles.
other than tentacles?
Impregnation.
No.
No, the second one didn't.
It did not, but it was good. Surprisingly nice tentacles.
How normal tentacles are?
Well, no, this is not
Are you-
normal. This is abnormal.
No, but like no, in their world, they're
Oh.
not
Oh.
surprised.
Oh yeah, nobody's just like, oh my god, what the fuck, kill it with fire. There's like,
Well, she was at the beginning of this one.
But not very.
she was just like,
Well,
oh,
she was like,
She
it
was
was like
just
kind
like,
of like,
oh.
what the fuck is this thing? Oh, it's talking to me.
Oh, I
Wait,
guess
what
it's
the
okay.
fuck is this thing?
But she's not like afraid of it or anything. For long, at least. Like she gives it a bath too.
Also, strong female leads.
True.
Yeah.
I like
Oh,
that.
yeah. That's something I didn't really think about.
That don't need no man.
Do you think it's different from when we're looking at tags that simply involve breast when it comes to female protagonists?
Were they strong female leads? They were definitely strong females.
I wonder if.
One of them was strong enough to rape somebody.
Yes. But I want to see. I want to know the difference between, because in these stories, the women are very strong. Like you pointed out, they're strong women. So if we change it into a guy, would it be more submissive? Would they be still like a strong?
The ones I saw where it was men having sex with tentacle creatures, usually the man was very submissive.
Well, because the tentacle always has to be the dominating one, right? Or the one, they always have to be the one that can do the things because they're the tentacle. They're gonna be going in. I guess you can grab it and force it in. That's a little weird.
But they have the power.
Yeah.
It kind of goes into that whole, not fetish, but sexual appreciation of losing control. Or being in the submissive position.
But all of these characters are in submissive positions, and yet they're still strong. Does that make sense?
It's not as submissive as it could be. Like compare
Yeah.
compare the dark elf lady to the other two,
Yeah,
where they were actually like just banging them on the head, and
Yeah.
like the one in Tentacle Romance got straight up kicked.
Domination and submission and sadomasochism are different things, so you can be a dominant masochist
Yeah,
or submissive sadist.
it's a spectrum.
It's more like a grid.
Were there any like thematic things that you all thought you saw reoccur throughout these texts, or anything that you thought tied these together other than the tentacles themselves?
I would, but that fucking the classic tentacle porn one is such an outlier compared to the other two. It's hard to. It's almost like that one's on its own island almost.
Well, I think the other two are on their own island.
Yeah, I mean, of the three, but yeah, they're on nice relationship island. Well, everybody's on Fuckfest Bay.
So far we've kind of talked about like male sexual development. We've talked about relationships. Is there anything else that you all thought that these texts said about either human sexuality, human relationships, or sexual psychology?
I mean, like I said, it goes a lot into the psychology of the person who wants to be submissive in the relationship. And I like to think I understand that, but I'm the dom. Again, I almost identify with the tentacle monster a little too much. So I wish Melinda was here. Damn it, Melinda, I know she's going to listen to this too. But she's not feeling good today, so.
What were you about to-
sweetie, feel better soon.
I was gonna say, like, some of these just kind of dehumanize the man by turning him into just a tentacle monster, or whatever kind of penetrating person you got in
Machine.
your relationship.
We didn't really bring this up, but who do you think the audience is for tentacle hentai? Do you think it's more men or more women?
Well, most
Depends on the-
most porn's audience is men, but if I remember reading correctly, I say that a lot. Somewhere that Tentacles actually is fairly popular within the female demographic.
Yeah, I mean, they're one of the most famous proponents of that is Aki Dearest.
I don't know what you're talking about.
She's a YouTuber.
Melinda. Melinda has opened many doors for me. But yeah, she's a YouTuber, and she has an entire recurring character that is essentially a tentacle fuck buddy.
Why are you talking to me?
Well, okay, again, Melinda Tentacles is one of her tags.
I also think it's more pleasing to look at than a guy.
Well, I don't know about that because a lot of times they look like dicks anyway. If it was straight
just
up,
talking about the entire thing. That thing was cute. From the last one, when she gives him a bath, it kind of looks like a puppy. Now I don't want to fuck any puppies, but like it's cute.
Okay, see, when you first said that, it's better to look at than a guy. I was like, I don't want to look at a guy's hairy asshole getting ripped open by a tentacle. I want the tight little brown butthole of the dark elf.
Alright. Let's bring this to a close, and as we did last time, we're going to end this podcast by putting together our own hentai tentacle story.
yay!
Oof.
Wait, what?
That's how we ended the podcast last time. We're going to try putting together our own story.
You know that writing thing where you go around the room and everybody adds another aspect to the story? That's what we're about to
An
do.
exquisite corpse.
Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, who started?
So far, we didn't see a science fiction or a horror one, but science fiction and horror are both settings for hentai, so who would like to give the setting for the hentai?
The setting.
Dead Space.
Dead
Oh
Space?
shit!
The what's it called?
The Ishimura?
The Ishimura.
So
I'm underqualified here because
a derelict spaceship in the near future.
Yes.
So a derelict spaceship in the near future.
No one can hear you scream.
Alright, female protagonist. Or it can be a male protagonist. We didn't talk about that, but
Or a robot.
who here wants to give the protagonist?
I already said my piece.
Yeah, Xavier already gave us a setting. Who wants to give us a protagonist?
see, I'll do the protagonist.
The
because
protagonist
I like
is a
to.
tentacle monster.
Oh shit! Flipping the script.
Actually, no, that's a good point. So, oh wait, did you want the female protagonist? Or
No,
you
give
want
us,
the
give us a protagonist.
Okay,
Because as
the
we saw in one of
protagonist.
them, the tentacle monster was a protagonist.
Now, as last time, I like to play my hentai on hard mode. So I'm not going to go the route of making it a space alien. I'm going to say that the protagonist, the tentacle monster, is actually a HAL-like artificial intelligence that sort of runs the ship and has multiple tentacles in every room that it uses to assist with the living of this derelict spaceship. And now that it's derelict, perhaps its programming has gone haywire. Or maybe it does believe sexual stimulation is important to the health of the female protagonist.
Morale's down.
The being shall continue until morale improves.
Alright, so we have a derelict spaceship with an AI that takes the form of a tentacled creature that assists with what goes on the ship. What happens next?
They collide on, or they crash onto a primitive planet.
Alright, so it crashes onto a primitive planet.
How primitive?
I'm gonna say.
In terms of Warhammer 40k? No.
Okay, they're straight up death worlds in 40k.
No, go ahead.
I don't know what about 40k.
They have different levels for how primal a world is.
Space Australia.
Space Australia.
Space Australia. Oh, God.
So I guess
get
give
some furry in here.
I guess you can give it in terms of Stone Age, Bronze Age.
Let's go Bronze Age.
All right. So spaceship crashes onto a Bronze Age planet. And I what happens next?
Oh god. They're stressed out.
The spaceship is stressed out.
No, not the spaceship. It's not. The people in the spaceship are stressed out.
So there's people on it.
Yeah, there's people in it. All kinds of people.
What kind of people?
Because we did say it was a derelict spaceship, meaning it's kind of empty, floating through space, kind of thing.
Oh, then there is.
We got to get to how people get on this spaceship.
It was piloted by dark elves.
It's
But they all raped each other.
so it crashes, right? So somebody walks up to it and decides to investigate it.
All right, who's the person that walks up to it?
Well,
Well, you got to give us the protagonist.
I
You have
know.
to give us the other protagonist at
it'd be
this
a
point.
Bronze Age, right? So it would be.
Oh, an Amazon?
Oh. Big, tall, dark Amazonian women. No.
Muscle.
No, it's. I'm a character, you gotta make it.
Can I just say Wonder Woman?
Oh.
So basically, a Hellenistic
Gal
Greek
Gadot.
Amazon. So a female warrior gets on the spaceship.
Yeah.
All right, where does it go from there? How does sex happen?
I think you're up on this one.
Okay.
Your stress levels are too high, human. Let me reduce those.
All right, let's see. How does this happen? Derelict spaceship lands on Bronze Age planet. Gal Gadot-esque Wonder Woman. I don't know if we can legally say that, can we?
Okay, lag. Todag.
Oh, I'll rephrase it. A thick warrior princess.
So a thick warrior princess.
Xena?
I'm thinking
That's
the
way
Amazon
better.
from Dragon's Crown.
No, Cena. Yeah.
So I guess.
Oh, the fucking Amazon?
No. That was the sorceress. That was like that.
Okay.
The Amazon had the booty.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So a thick Amazon warrior princess. It does what her people are afraid to do, and that she goes to investigate it. And yeah, let's go with the spaceship realizes that her stress levels are too high because she's freaking out about what's happening. The machine, being a sentient AI, probably also needs its own stress relief. And we'll be subversive and say they come to a somewhat consensual agreement about relieving each other's stress, which leads into the sexual acts that happen. And I guess in the epilogue, last page of the story, I guess they help push the civilization forward as thick Amazon warrior princess and her advisor, the tentacle alien spaceship.
And a whole ship that can just breed perfectly, genetically superior warrior women.
I want the I want it to have like the HAL panel with like a hat on it.
And it gives him all sorts of futuristic technology.
Alright, there we go. That is the Caffeinated Conquest Hentai Literature Club.
We gotta name it.
We have to name it. I feel like it should have like an old school D&D type of name, like Keep on the Borderlands or something like that, or White Plume Mountain.
Borderlands 2. That one's been taken.
By the way, this is just an aside, but if nobody has ever seen those that meme of renamed D&D covers, you're fucking missing out on life. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Oh my god!
I'll look it up right now. We gotta think of the title. Alright, who here? We have thick Amazon warrior princess, sentient AI alien spaceship, Tentacles.
Light Years of Love.
That sounds like an erotic novel.
Okay, it does. Light Years of Spooge.
It should have terrible English. Or hilarious English, depending on your views on that.
Then it would be something like Warrior Princess Tentacle Lover or something like that.
There we go.
Warrior Princess Tentacle Lover, there it is.
Yep.
Signed in the movie.
Oh yeah, that is
Galvado, we got a new role for you. Sorry, Xena, you're a little
Old.
Ooh, Lucy Lawley, she still does TV. The last thing she did that I know of was the, not the Resident Evil, the fucking Ash versus the Evil Dead TV series.
Yeah. I bet she's still super hot.
I mean, yeah, but we need somebody to carry the series for like 10 years.
Good point.
Alright, there you go. There you have it, the Hentai Literature Club podcast and our official Caffeinated Conquest Tentacle Hentai. Perhaps one of us will write it up and we'll put it up on our Tumblr and you can read it. And
One of us gets a Tumblr.
Well, we have a Tumblr.
When one of us gets a Tumblr.
Well, there we go. We'll use the Tumblr to post our tentacle erotica, or our Hentai Literature Club erotica, because I don't think any of us can actually draw that well.
Tom can. I don't know, Tom. How do you feel about drawing porn?
I don't want to be any sort of manga artist.
So it's not hentai by itself. I don't want to draw manga.
It's okay.
Well, because I know what horrible living conditions they do.
It's okay, your deadline will be like tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Alright, yeah, so if you enjoyed this episode of the Hentai Literature Club, we hope that you can like it or love it depending on what platform you're listening to this on, whether it's YouTube or SoundCloud or wherever else our podcasts happen to end up on. We have plenty of social media you can follow. Chaz and Tom both have their own individual Twitters, as well as we have a Caffeinated Conquest Twitter, right?
Yeah, I run the CAFCON Twitter, and then Tom.
I run CAFCON Tom Twitter.
Yeah, and if you're not following at CAFCON Tom, you really should be, because he posts cool stuff every once in a while. He's not.
I don't. I'm sorry, I don't, but I don't.
You do. I remember there was a Guts thing that I retweeted. Anyway, point is, Tom is not super active right now, but if you follow him and interact with him and give him a reason to be, he's cool people.
But yeah, for now, follow us, subscribe to us. If you really like what we do, you can throw money at us on Patreon. We promise nothing in return than your continued entertainment. But yeah, other than that, stay caffeinated.